When I was about 12 years old, I lived in New Mexico, this small town called Gallup, New Mexico. In fact, it's called Drunk Town, USA, because majority of the Navajo Indians there were alcoholics. Like majority, like 70%. Like, it's crazy, right? And we lived in this small little house, and beside us was a huge field. And one day I saw this man that lived down a few houses from he was a policeman, but he was a canine policeman. He had the dog. And I remember looking at his German Shepherd, and I was like, wow, that is a beautiful dog. I was amazed by the dog, but I was kind of afraid of the dog too, because it was so big. And one day he gave the dog a command, and the dog didn't listen. So he walks over to the dog. Now, I'm 12 years old. I see him pick up his dog and slam the dog to the ground. And he kneels beside the dog and he starts to whisper something in the dog's ear. It didn't sound like English either. It sounded like he was speaking German. He lets the dog up. He gives the dog the command again. This time the dog complies. And I remember thinking at 12, wow. Number one, I'm going to listen to that policeman anytime he tells me something. But he was able, this is a huge animal. And yet he can make this animal do what he says. And then about 30 years goes by, and I'm in my son's baseball practice. And this man gets out of his car, and in his car, he has a huge pit bull. Now, I wasn't as happy to see the pit bull as I was to see the German Shepherd. I'm terrified of pit bulls, right? And I get what some of you may say, they get a bad rap. You might be right, but this big, huge, muscle-bound dog scared me. He got out of the car and he was wild and wiggling and squiggling. And his owner said, you sit right there. I'm like, sit right there? Let me go sit in my car. The dog did not budge. He walked away from the dog about 40 feet. He looks back at the dog and say, you can come now. And the dog came to him. I said, wow. Look at now, again, this dog was huge. All I kept thinking about is, that dog ain't gonna listen to you. That dog was obedient. Obedient. What if I were to tell you that obedience is very important in the life of a believer? What if I were to share with you that it's our obedience that leads to us being able to observe God move? What if I were to tell you that? Would you be a little bit more obedient? You see, obedience is not always easy. It's not. I will give you that. It's not always easy to do what God tells you to do, but that's the reason he rewards you so greatly. Because he recognizes not everybody's going to choose to listen to me. Some of the commands he may give you may seem strange, but if you're willing to obey him, the reward is great. The reward is always worth the ridicule you'll get, the ostracization you'll have to deal with. The reward it outweighs all of life's hardship. This morning at about 6:07, my phone made this chirp sound. It was my little sister from Colorado. She texted me. She might be watching right now. And she says, are you speaking today? I was like, well, how did you know that? She said, I had a dream that you were preaching, but I couldn't hear anything you were saying. So she told me to speak up loud and clear. So it's my prayer that the Lord speaks loud and clear to all of us today. Let's talk for a minute about how obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move. You ready to write down a few things? I got my rag just in case. I got a feeling today I'm not going to be able to fight it off. Joshua 6, and we're going to look at verse 2 through 5 starting. Joshua 6, 2 through 5. And it says, and the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go around the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns, and the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. Everybody with me so far? So God tells Joshua, I'm giving you this city. Jericho is yours for the taking. Okay? It's yours. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to march around the city 1 time. I want you to do that for 6 days. On the 7th day, I don't want you to do it once. I want you to do it 7 times. And after that, I want them to blow the horn, blow the trumpet, and then y'all shout like crazy, and the walls will come tumbling down. Y'all with me? All right, scroll your finger down a few more verses, move down to verse 10. It says, and Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout. Then shall ye shout. Y'all still with me? Y'all don't say nothing until I tell you to. Scroll a little further down to verse 15. Verse 15, it says, and it came to pass on the 7th day. So this is the 7th day. What do you think they did 1 through 6? They went around 1 time. Now we're on the 7th day, okay? It came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass that at the 7th time when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for the Lord hath given you the city. So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. Y'all see it? Can y'all see it? Can you see it? I tried this same thing on my job a few weeks ago on Monday when I didn't want to go to work. So I walked around the building 7 times, right? And I was like, if I do this right, these walls should come tumbling down. I can go back home. It did not work for me, right? But God didn't give me the command to knock the building down at school, all right? So those kids were safe that day. It wasn't the walking that caused the walls to fall. It wasn't the trumpets that caused the wall to fall. It wasn't the shouts that caused the wall to fall. What was it that caused the wall to fall? It was obedience. It was obedience, because what if, come on, man, we did this 6 days already, man. Ain't nothing finna happen, and they did not do it 7 times. What if they did it 7, but they forgot to bring the horns? What if they did it 7 and blew the horns, but they didn't? I don't feel like shouting. All right, come on, y'all sing with me. That's what your pastor said. Bless the Lord with me. Sing it with me, y'all. What if your blessing is in your obedience? What if your healing is in you actually releasing that timid spirit and singing unto the Lord? It wasn't the walking. It wasn't the trumpets. It wasn't the shouting. It was their obedience that made the walls come down. And I told you, this is not something that's normal. When Joshua gave them this information, surely they were like, hold on. You telling me that all we got to do is walk around this wall and it's going to come down? Are you looking at the same wall I'm looking at? All right. I mean, hey, I'll try anything. Let me say this, and I'm going to say it a few more times. Obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move. 1 Kings 17 and 7. 1 Kings 17 and 7. It says, and it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he rose and went. So he arose and went. What's another word for those 5 words? Obedience. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel. I like the way that sounds. I'm going to say that from now on when I want water at home. Like, baby, fetch me, I pray thee, a little vessel of water. And she'd be like, fetch it thine selfeth, right? What's wrongeth with thine legs? No, she would take care of me, I think. She said, I'm finna be a widow pretty soon. You keep asking for water. Fetch me there, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, obedience, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. You know what, sweetie, before you go, bring me a little bit of bread too. Hey, I don't know who he think I am. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I'm gathering 2 sticks that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat and die. I don't have a lot, man. I mean, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually making me and my son's last meal. Like, we're going to eat this little bit of bread that I can come up with, and then we're expecting that we're going to die after this. Like, there's nothing left. Okay? Verse 13. And Elijah said to her, Fear not. Don't be afraid. Go and do as thou sayest, but make me thereof a little cake first. Huh? Did you not just hear what I just said? I ain't got enough for me and my boy. You want me to make your piece first? But make thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and thy son. I started thinking about this verse because a lot of times people who have learned to trust God with everything, they see this verse differently than people who have not. They can truly say, I would give God everything because I know the kind of God I serve would just turn around and bless me in return. But a person who's never experienced giving God of their whole self, I have to reserve something. I got to hold back something. He says, make it for me first. Verse 14, for thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days. She had a little this and a little that, but when she obeyed God, she never ran out. She never ran out. And I know what you're saying. Well, all I got is a little this, Brother Cody, and a little that. But if God tells you to do something with your little this and little that, do what he tells you. If you will obey him, you will see him move. This is thousands of years ago, and we're still telling the story. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail until, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. Obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move. 2 Kings chapter 5. Write it down. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1 through 3. This is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. It says, now Naaman, a captain in the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. And if you know anything about leprosy back then was like a death sentence. Their skin would rot away until they died. They were unclean and it was contagious, so they couldn't be around other people. They had to be pushed outside the city. They had to tell you if you're coming close, unclean, unclean, stay back, please. I don't want to get any of y'all sick. Just like us a few years ago with our mask. If you had COVID, stay home. How many days? 14. But I feel better. 14. But I feel better. 14. 6 feet, please. Please, sir. 6 feet. I remember something Pastor said years ago during the midst of COVID. He said, I kind of like the mask because then people are not breathing over my food. And I saw a lady the other day. She was like, we went to a wedding last Sunday and they were serving hors d'oeuvres. I said, so what is that one? Oh, that's chicken with sweet potato biscuit. I was like, I want the one without the saliva on it. I was like, that's pretty gross, man. But let me go and get one. I'm hungry. I'm going to pray over this biscuit 3 times. He was a leper. Verse 2 says, and the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captives out of the land of Israel, a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. So when they captured people, Naaman's wife had a little girl from Israel that was her like little maid, right? He has leprosy. His wife has a little Israel girl who's her maid. Verse 3, and she said unto her mistress, would God, my Lord, were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. If all you got to do is go talk to, I know a preacher who could hook him up. I know a guy that knows the guy who could hook him up. That's what she told her wife, or Naaman's wife. And I always thought about this. Naaman had to be a decent dude for the slave girl to tell the master, I can get you healed. Because if you're cruel, nobody's trying to help you. So even if you're in a position that we might frown upon as a master of a slave, but yet her mindset was, I want to help him, which means Naaman must have been a pretty decent guy. That kind of motivates me to be good toward everybody. Because the person that you treat like trash may be the person that has the answer to your problem. Scroll your finger down to verse 10. Verse 10. Now, between 3 and 10, Naaman goes and talks to his king. His king writes a letter to the king of Israel saying, would you please heal my guy? The king of Israel gets the letter, and when he reads the letter, he feels like the king of Syria is making fun or making a joke. How am I supposed to heal him of leprosy? He rips his clothes, which is a sign of distress. But then Elisha hears about it. Elisha says, don't fret, king, send him to me. So he's coming to meet Elisha, the prophet, and Elisha sends his servant out to talk to Naaman. And he gives Naaman some instructions. Verse 10, it says, and Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth. He was angry. And he went away and said, behold, I thought. You know, I read that so many times, but this last time when I read it, I thought stuck out to me. I thought. How many times are we going to rob ourselves of what God has for us because of what we think? Our thinking is finite. It's limited. It's weak. God is like, you thought. Did you forget who I am? I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord, his God, and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. I just figured I'd show up and he'd be like, hocus pocus. Elijah says, hey, go dip in that river over there 7 times and you'll be healed. Man, for real? First off, how you not going to come out and talk to me yourself? You're going to send somebody else. Verse 12. Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers in Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. I got rivers at home that's clean. You want me to bathe in this nasty stuff? Come on, man. He's leaving. He's upset. Verse 13. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father. I thought that was cool too. They called him my father. My father, if the prophet had bid thee to do something great, wouldest thou have not done it? If he had asked you something hard to do, all right, you got to go climb that mountain. And when you get to the top, there'll be a rock that all you got to do is chew on that rock. You're like, okay, let me get to this mountain. He told you to dip in water 7 times, and you are tripping over this. He says, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then would he say it, wash and be clean? I wrote in my notes here, it's a blessing to have people in your life that will encourage you to obey God, even when it doesn't make sense to you. Sister, what does the Bible say about that? I know, man, but look, man, but it's different for me right now. Oh, really? Let me see. The Bible says here, I change not. Okay, so I'm thinking this word does apply to you too. Yeah, but it's different in my situation. Why? It is a blessing if you have anyone in your life that pushes you toward obeying God. Verse 14. Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. Not only was he healed, his skin was better than what it was before he got leprosy. He got the skin of a young boy after that. Now, I know what you're thinking, Brother Cody. You've got nice skin. Thank you. Thank you. I was washing my face the other day with some of my wife's special soap. She got like 9 special things. I just grab one every now and then, use it, see if it'll make me as pretty as her. It's not working. And I noticed I had these black, like, marks under my eyes, right? And I'm like, okay, let me use her soap, see if that'll make the marks go away. I used it one day, checked the mirror, still there. Use another day, check the mirror, poof, it's gone. Just like that. I got young boy skin all over again. We are selling her soap for $59.99 plus tax. I say all that to say is I don't care how much scrubbing I'm doing. I'm not getting Naaman's skin. Naaman's obedience led to him having better skin than what he came. When you come to God, if you're willing to obey him, you'll be surprised how you will leave him. Naaman was just wanting to be healed. He wasn't expecting to be healed and then blessed on top of that, right? I've always loved the part of the story because in my imagination, I can see Naaman dipping once and questioning how stupid he looks. I look dumb dipping in this muddy water. This is stupid. Then he dips twice. Still, I don't see no change. And he's thinking about, I'm not finna do this 7 times. He dips 3 times. And he's like, if I don't see nothing on the next one, I'm just going to quit. Yeah. One more dip. One more dip. What if he would have stopped at 6? You see, it's the obedience. It's not the water in the Jordan. That's not what led to his healing. It was the obedience. You know how many people probably took baths in that river all the time, and they still dirty. This guy dips in the water 7 times because that's what he was told to do. Question: are you willing to look foolish to the world? Are you willing to look foolish to the world and continue to obey God? Because the world will tell you, you look stupid. You ain't got to go to church to be saved. You're right, you don't. But I like being around those people. For some reason, they kind of push me toward being better. And he returned to the man of God, and he and his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Pastor Coleman said before we started, there's none like him. And I know you've heard that before, but until you experience it, it's just words. But when you experience it, there's none like him, it triggers something in you. When you hear that statement, it triggers something in your heart. Your heart flutters. It lights up a little bit. Your mind, your hope starts to grow. I don't know what you're going through. All I know is there's none like the God that we serve. And obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move. Luke chapter 5, verse 2 through 7. I'm going to switch into fast forward mode. Are y'all ready? Because I'm almost out of time. I'm going to go fast. Are y'all ready? Everybody got their helmets on? Because I'm going real fast. All right. Luke chapter 5, verse 2 through 7. It says, and saw two ships standing by the lake, but the fishermen were gone out of them and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people out of the ship. Now, when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, launch out into the deep and let your nets for draught into the deep. Launch into the deep. Question. Are you willing to go a little deeper with Christ? Because if you're willing to go a little deeper with him, if you're willing to obey his voice, you might be surprised what's in the deep. Verse 5, and Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net. These are the most powerful words that you and I can utter as well. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will. No matter what it looks like, Lord, if you say it, I will do it. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will. I will let down my net. I will serve in this capacity. I will do what you tell me to do, Lord. Verse 6, and when he had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake. I like this because fish is plural of fish, right? A school of fish. You don't say fishes. But they had so many fish, they couldn't even just stop at fish. It was fishes. It was so much fish that their net started to break. Now, he just told Jesus, come on, man, we've been out all night. Trust me, there's nothing out there for us to catch. And Jesus says, go out a little further and cast it over here. Okay, all right. I'll do it, but I'm just telling you. I've been fishing since I was 5. And you are a carpenter, correct? Okay, we'll push out and do what you say. If you push out and do what he tells you, you might be surprised what you catch. Verse 7 says, and they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. And they came and filled the ships so that they began to sink. They went from catching nothing all night to catching too much within a moment, a mere moments. Like it literally happened as soon as Jesus speaks. I don't know what's going on in your life, but if he tells you to push out a little deeper, are you going to be like Peter and say, oh, come on, Jesus? But I tell you what, nevertheless, I'll do it because you say. I'll do it because you say. Obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move. John chapter 2, verse 2 through 10. I'll just tell you the story. This is when Jesus went to the wedding. He went to the wedding and they ran out of wine. And so his mom comes to him and she says, Jesus, they're out of wine. Jesus said, what's that got to do with me? It's not time for me to start doing all that yet, mama. But because he's an honorable son, he listens to his mom. She turns to the people. She says, hey, whatever he tells you to do, do it. Just in case you think I'm not telling the truth. Columbus, put that up on the screen for me. John chapter 2, verse 5. Verse 5 says, and his mother said unto the servants, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. Whatever if he told you to do a backflip, you better try your best to do a backflip. I ain't never did a backflip in my life. I don't know how to do a back. Do it. If he told you could do it, you know what's crazy? You would be able to do it. I love the illustration you use when you say, if God told, the speaker is black, but if he said the speaker is white, either the speaker would turn white or all of us would see the speaker as white, because God's word never returns void. So she tells them, whatever Jesus tells you to do, you do it. So he tells them to fill the water pots. There were 6 of them, it says, 6 water pots of stone. And they were 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Firkin. Anybody know what a firkin is? No, I said firkin. I don't know what y'all thought I said, firkin. That is not what I said. I had to look it up. A firkin is a unit of measurement, and it's about 11 gallons. So it was a pot that could hold 11 gallons. And there was 2 to 3 firkins in each pot. So let's make the math easy, because I'm a PE teacher. I don't do math like that. Let's say there were 2 firkins each pot. That means 2 times 11 equals 22. Got it. I feel proud. But there was 6 pots, which means 22 times 6, carry the 2 divided by 1, 132 gallons that these pots could hold. And they filled them, it says, to the top. 132 gallons of water filled to the top. Verse 7 says, Jesus said unto them, fill the water pots with water, and they filled them to the brim. This right here gave me motivation to do what the Lord tells me with the greatest level of excellence. Because what if they filled it up halfway? Maybe he still turned it into wine, but they only got half of the blessing they could have had if they would have filled it to the brim. What are you holding back from God? What are you reserving from God? What are you not giving to him? Because that might be the area of your life you need the greatest blessing, but he can't bless you because you won't fill it to the brim. 132 gallons of the good stuff. It was so good that when the governor drank it, he said, whoa, bring me that waiter back. This is good. What is this? This is pure ordinary. What? This is Moscato? No, Jesus. This is called Jesus. Jesus in the back making this up. Jesus' wine was so good that the governor said, most of the time, people give us the good stuff up front, and then when we get a little tipsy, they bring us the cheap stuff because we don't know no different. You save the good stuff to the end. All I know is everything Jesus does is the good stuff. Even me and you, when he created us, he said, now that is good. I like that one. Have you seen my servant Job? Don't you want your name spoken like that? Maybe you don't want to go through what Job went through, but you want God to smile and say, you see my servant Yvonne? Oh, look at her. You see my servant Patrick? That's my boy. Give me some, Pat. That's what you want. But in order for you to hear those words, it requires obedience. He said about Jesus, he's my son in whom I'm well pleased. He said that after Jesus was baptized. Jesus was going through the steps that we all need to go through, demonstrating, showing us how it's done to walk with the Father. I'm so pleased with my son. Why? Because he's obedient. He's obedient. Something that I tell my sons, and we can all learn from this, is that delayed obedience is disobedience. Delayed obedience is disobedience. Well, I did it. I just did it when I got ready. I know that's disobedience. Either we will honor God immediately or we are disobeying him. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 and 20, it says, "And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon, called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him." The NIV says, at once they left their nets and followed him. Immediate. Again, delayed obedience is disobedience. How many times have we finally listened to God, but after we took knocks upside the head? You could have avoided all of that if you had obeyed him immediately. Let's close with this final part. Y'all ready to go home? Yes, I see a few smiles. All right, let's close with this. Mark chapter 14, verse 32 through 36. "And they came to a place which was named Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, Sit here while I shall pray. And he taketh with him Peter and James and John, and began to be sore amazed, and to be very heavy. And he saith unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful unto death. Tarry here and watch." Jesus is expressing how his heart hurts because he's recognizing what's about to happen. He's about to die at the hands of these cruel men, and it was weighing on him. So let me go and pray. You guys just chill right here while I go pray. Verse 35, "And he went further a little and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not that I will, but what thou wilt." There's that word again, nevertheless. Nevertheless, you know what? I don't want to go through this, Lord. But if you're telling me I have to go through it in order to accomplish what you want, I will obey you. I will obey you. Philippians 2:8 says, "And being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross." 1 Peter 3:18 says, "For Christ also hath suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit." The greatest act of obedience was what allowed you and me to return to the Father. The greatest act of obedience was Jesus saying, "Nevertheless, your will be done." And if Jesus is willing to obey the Father to bring us back to him, surely we can obey the Father to show our gratitude to him. Last verse, John 14:15. It says, "If ye love me, keep my commandments." If you love me, obey me. Don't talk about it, Brother Cody. Live it. Obey me. You keep saying you love me. You keep telling everybody how much you love me, but you don't obey me. You are not my son, Brother Cody. You are my creation, yes, and I do love you. Stop claiming me as your Lord when you won't listen to me. Obey me if you love me. We want God to honor our requests, but we won't obey his requirements. It doesn't work that way. Final question of the morning. If our obedience leads to opportunities to observe God move in our lives, what will our disobedience do? Just ponder that. And as I always say, thank you for lending me your ear. I pray that you will give God your hearts. God bless you.